Hey everybody, it's Don from Cupcake Inc. and today we're going to talk about how to put a lattice on a pie. I was at the farmer's market this morning. There were amazing strawberries and fantastic fresh rhubarb. So what we've got here is 6 cups of rhubarb, 1.5 cups of sugar, a little bit of cornstarch just to help thicken it, and a little bit of cinnamon, and of course salt. And you know, salt's really important in a baked product because it enhances the flavor of the sugar and it balances the flavor out. So I've got a 9-inch glass pie plate, and I've put a pâte brisée crust. And if you need that recipe, I can always put it at the bottom of this link, and you'll be able to see it. So go ahead, mix up all of your fruit, the 6 cups of the rhubarb, and about 2 cups of fresh strawberries, and let them sit for about 5 minutes, and then you're going to pile it into your pan. And I mean literally pile it. So that's step 1. Step 2 then is we've got our second crust, and it's the same size as the first, except that I've taken the trusty old pizza wheel and I have cut it into 1-inch strips. And so I'm going to use those 1-inch strips to create our lattice. So I know this is a little bit difficult to see, but I just want to share with you. So if you start with the very first one in the middle, and then you're going to go a couple of inches over, drop a second one, a couple inches over, drop a third one. Finally, you're going to drop a fourth one, and these are all parallel. Then you're going to fold those all back in half. So just take them, fold them in half until we can get our next row in. Now you're going to add one more the opposite way, so perpendicular, remember? And we're going to fold all of those in. So that's kind of the very first step of the lattice, if you think about that, right? Because we're just crisscrossing the whole pattern. Now we're going to do just a couple more. So do every other, and we're going to really create that pattern now. Drop in another piece, fold that back down, and on the opposite side, same thing. Fold every other back, add in your next piece, fold those, fold the opposite ones back, add in your piece, fold them back on top. I know it sounds complicated, but once you do it the first time, you'll be a pro at it after that. Add the other 2, and you're all set. If you see, which I think you can see the lattice kind of goes both ways, and it interlocks. If you make a mistake, you're fine. Either way, it's still going to bake up and look just as terrific. So I then pinch off all these ends. You could tuck them under if you don't want to waste them. So you could either tuck under or trim them off, doesn't matter. If you tuck them under, just give them a little bit of a pinch so that they all kind of stick to the crust. Rustic pies have a tendency not to have a fluted edge. So if you want to flute the edge, by all means, go ahead and flute it. I like it a little more rustic, especially when you're baking something as juicy and delicious as a strawberry rhubarb pie, because there's going to be so much juice when this is done. It's all going to bake down and bake beautifully. I even have a little bit of crust left, which we're not going to use this time. So the final step is a great little wash. So I'm going to take 1 egg, put it into a bowl, and just beat that until it's completely beaten up, just like that. And then we're going to brush it on top. You know, this, if you don't have an egg, you could always do heavy cream. You could do a little bit of milk. We're going to add a little bit of sugar to give it some shine. But the egg is really fantastic because the yolk has a tendency to brown a little bit differently in the oven. And so you're going to get a great color in addition to a great shine from the egg white. So go ahead, cover as much of it as you can. And then we're just going to trickle a little bit of raw sugar on top to give it a little bit of sparkle, which is always really, really pretty. Let me grab that raw sugar. I use the regular turbinado sugar, and it's got just a little bit of a texture to it. I'm not sure that you can see that, but it's definitely raw sugar. and it's a little coarser. So if you drop that on top, and quite frankly, you can put it on top of the rhubarb as well, no worries. You're just going to add a little more sweetness. You know, if you're not a rhubarb lover, this is going to convert you, I think, because the addition of the strawberries kind of sweetens that almost sour note of the rhubarb, and the texture really becomes quite lovely at the end. So that's it. I am going to throw this into a 375 degree preheated oven. It's probably going to take about an hour and a half. It might take an hour and 15 depending on whether or not you use a convection oven. If you choose to use a convection oven, you might have to cover it 3/4 of the way through, so maybe at 45 minutes. Cover it loosely with a little bit of foil so that you don't over brown your crust. What you're looking for is that the bottom crust is beautifully golden and caramelized, and the top is completely cooked and nicely browned. I am going to bake it just on the rack in the oven. Underneath that rack, I put a second rack in, and I'm going to line that cookie sheet with a little bit of foil to catch all of the drips and spills. You can expect drips and spills because that's the nature of this pie. When it comes out of the oven, I'm going to join you again. We'll talk about how to hold your pie and what to serve it with for dessert. All right, I'll see you in just a little bit. Have a good day.